Hi everyone, my name is Maqdad. I'm the founder and CEO of CareerDC. For young people today, the potential for career satisfaction is huge, yet many university students and new graduates find themselves financially insecure, directionless, or unmotivated in the pursuit of their dream career. This can lead to neglected studies, jumping between unfulfilling jobs, or wallowing in unemployment. Today, we meet with Nathaniel, who can restart your sense of direction, helping you map out a path to a career you will love and master the skills needed to navigate it. Whether you are unclear on how to proceed in your path of study, unsure of what to do with your new degree, or short on qualifications for the job you want, Jared can help you make sense of your options. Jared is a dedicated educational careers practitioner who is committed to delivering outcomes for students and graduates, and who has a thorough understanding of the 360-degree student life cycle. For the past 25 years, Jared has worked with both domestic and international students and graduates within culturally and linguistically diverse communities within VET, RTO, TAFE, higher educational settings, providing work placements, WIL, and career programs. Jared's career transitioned into the educational space after an initial career in corporate recruitment, working for high-end global recruitment brands. His experience and skills also include strategic, talent, learning and development functions, people development, consultancy, and change management. We have Jared here with us to tell us about the benefits of work integrated learning. So, Jared.
Thank you, Maqdad. Great to be with you all. Yes, wonderful introduction as normal. Welcome everyone. I think, look, I get very excited. I think there's everyone knows that I get very excited about careers and work integrated learning and providing opportunities and links to industry, but providing opportunities to those entering the workforce, completing studies or even during studies. And this is where we're talking today in terms of work integrated learning. Because a lot of the opportunities for great employment come or start with work integrated learning opportunities, whether that's project work, or whether that is internships. And MIT, obviously, we do both. And we can see the numbers rising of students acquiring graduate opportunities, whether part-time, full-time, foot in the door stuff, prior to completing their studies and therefore graduation, and going to graduation with a job in hand. And case in point of recent times, and this is what we're talking about in COVID days, unemployment rates are skyrocketing. And we see it every day in the media. Every day we see 100 here, 200 there, maybe 5,000 unemployed, being made redundant, or forced resignations, or whatever the circumstance, people are losing their jobs. Some industries will go down and be decimated by COVID. Others will pick up. And one of those areas is IT, because we're all living in a digital world. So, and every organisation has an IT department, every organisation needs IT support. And this is where opportunities and growth in IT come in. So those studying IT, I would say to those students, yes, there's a possibility, a real opportunity, real possibility to get work in COVID days. And case in point, we have a graduate that finished a couple of months ago. Now this is, what are we, 2020 at the moment? So this is right smack bang in the middle of COVID. Completed her studies, Bachelor of Engineering, Telecommunications, and has just picked up a job, acquired a job with Mercedes-Benz Australia. So there's a case in point that I hear all the time from new students, well, we international students, be it domestic or international, doesn't really matter, but student can't get a job. Well, yes, that's false. We can get a job if you know how to get a job and know how to play the employment game. Employment's a game and you've got to know how to play that game, just like any sporting match. Every sporting match has coaches, strategies, players win. Same principle applies to employment. You've got to have a strategy to win the game. And I guess this is where my passion lies, that we teach, I instruct students and graduates how to play that employment game and beat the thousands of others for a job. Recently, another case in point recently, and this is how bad the market is at the moment for some, is that a part-time kitchen hand, we're talking hospitality part-time kitchen hand, we've reported, it's publicly available information, that they had 2,500 applications for the part-time kitchen hand job. So employment's tough, the market's tough, but it can be done. And one of the ways is what we're talking about today, work integrated learning. Opportunities, there's your opportunity, a foot in the door. Another case in point, I remember a student, a telecommunications student, engineering student, master's this time, not a batch, but a master's student, gave up his summer break to do an internship over summer, 2019-2020, just before COVID hit. He approached them, he self-sourced that internship, right? One wasn't provided to him, he self-sourced it, he engaged with industry. And again, it's all about communication skills too, and how the ability to engage with employers and industry. And so he did that. We approved the internship. It was academically approved. And that was an opportunity for him to excel, to show the employer why they should take him on. Right? And obviously, there's an opportunity to learn skills and acquire new skills and immerse themselves in a team, because I go back to recruitment days, and clients would always say to me, industry would always say to me, find us a cultural fit in a potential candidate. So that's why I also translate that message when you're looking for work or internship or opportunity full stop, about looking at the work culture. So this particular student, now graduate, on his very last day of his 3 months, 480 hours, on his last day, the CEO pulled him aside, very last day, it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and he was called into the CEO's office. And I recall that this particular student was really nervous, and being called into a CEO, if I was pulled into my dad's office, I'd be very nervous. So, no, of course not. Yes, well, yes, I probably would be. So anyway, so this particular student was called in, and CEO of a multi-million-dollar organisation had just finished his 480 hours. And he said, listen, I'll edit names out. And this particular CEO said, listen, we've never done this. We've never had an intern before because we were afraid, there was insurance issues, all that sort of thing. But this particular student put his case forward initially and got his foot in the door and acquired that opportunity. So that presented him for 3 months to sell himself as a package, to market himself to the employer. So he was willing to go outside the norm and 9 to 5 business hours. Weekend, he offered to work weekends. He offered to take work home with him. At the end of the day, throughout the 3 months, he was there working long hours. He contributed well. The team loved him. And the very last thing the CEO said was, listen, we don't necessarily do this. We've never, in fact, done it. We've never done an internship, but you've proven us wrong. You have proven us wrong. And what we'd like to do, and we know he's still completing T1 2020. So the first half of the year, he still had 2 units to complete of his course. So the employer knew this, and they said, well, this particular CEO said, listen, we know you've got 2 units to complete, you haven't finished. International student, obviously work restrictions as well apply. So what we'd like to do is work around all that. And we know you're not going back till March. So this is January 10, 11, 2020. And so he was going to go back to complete the units in March. So between January and March, he was offered a full-time contract, because he had the ability to work full-time during his summer break, of 40 hours per week, full-time contract, $60,000 Australian full-time contract as a systems IT engineer. As a direct result of his work and experience in his internship placement, he was offered a full-time job until March. He was dropped back to part-time, obviously, to fit in with visa restrictions, with work limitation. And then so he completed his 2 units throughout the first half of this year. He was able to work part-time as a systems IT engineer And then when he finished in July, he was put back on full-time roster. The pressure was off. He didn't have to go to the market. He didn't have to go to employment sites. He didn't have to compete. He was given an opportunity as a direct result of his internship. And there are many, many other stories I can quote. And Mick Dad knows that I can go on and on and on and on about stories and good news stories. But it doesn't matter whether you're an advertising student. It doesn't matter if you're a business student, an accounting student. It doesn't matter if it's a telecom engineer or an IT, cybersecurity. It doesn't matter. Regardless, the will experience counts. No? Yes, of course, it might be unpaid. And the majority of internships in Australia are unpaid because we don't have the market. For instance, in America, you'll have 200, or the USA, you'll have, a population of 250 million plus. So, the market's there to support perhaps a nominal amount for internship, maybe a casual rate of pay. But in Australia, we don't have that. Yes, some are paid, but the majority aren't. So, but it's an opportunity that outweighs the opportunity for a full-time job. And the full-time job you can get as a direct result of will, whether it's capstone project, another capstone project, what we call capstone, industry-based project, was an automated cat flap AI, using AI. I've got to remember how we say this correctly, but it was using AI. And McDad might jump in and say, that's wrong, Jared. But it was based on AI, and it was a cat flap, as with the door, right? So you have a dog door, a dog flap in a door. So it was a cat flap facial recognition project. And as a result of that, that project's gone to market, commercial. So there's yet another example. We had a group at MIT late last year working on an international-based project. And that was a dry sanitation project with the support of the Prime Minister of Pakistan. So there are all these wonderful opportunities that you can grab. I would, if a student or a graduate or someone even looking for work said, should I do it? And I would say yes, because it's an opportunity. Because also think about this. If you have someone, and I'll give you that example again, of a Masters of Engineering student that was of your graduate now, that was offered that full-time role on his last day, then they've got someone in front of them that they know already. They know someone. They fit in with the team loves them, the workforce loves them. Why go to the market? Why put a job ad out there at cost? Everyone's looking to reduce cost these days, and employers will tell you about networking and how the network does work. Now, MIT, what I do is put it out to alumni. For that, again, as McDad introduced me, that I'm very aware and conscious of the 360-degree life cycle of feeding back, alumni feeding back and providing opportunities. So, any opportunity, virtual internships, I would say go ahead and do. There are a lot of our students doing virtual internships as well at the moment. Pre-COVID, you'd probably get a really small percentage of an opportunity to get your foot in or experience life with perhaps, one of the big firms, one of the big organisations, the telecom organisations, or the big, perhaps KPMG or one of those organisations, or Deloitte's perhaps, to name a few, that very few opportunities would come pre-COVID. You'd have to go in, you'd have to apply, go through all of that. So COVID, and during COVID, has presented opportunities from business and to students rather, that you can get a foot in the door that way, virtual internships. And there are various organisations that are now running virtual internships. And they're produced by these organisations. The graduate recruitment talent look at those people that have come through, and students or those participants that have gone through those virtual internships, or completed rather those virtual internships. And that adds value by putting certificates, by obtaining these certificates and putting their details on your resume. Because remember how tough the employment market is at the moment. And you've got to think what employers are looking for, right? Employers recognise big organisations, right? They're familiar with them. And if you've got some branding, some high-end branding on your resume, they're going to pick up on that. Remember, tailor it to the reader, your CV. And that is your virtual merchandise. I always say this and use this analogy to students and grads. You're a shop front on maybe George Street. You're maybe a shop front at your local shopping strip, or perhaps in Melbourne on Swanston Street, or Burke Street Mall, or Adelaide, doesn't matter where you are in the world. But you've got all these shops, and that's you, and your front window, and you've got all these employers walking past your front window, customers walking past your front window, and your job is to make them stop at your shop window. And that's what a CV does, and that's what your LinkedIn does. That's your shop window, that's visual merchandising. But more importantly, is you've got to get them in through the door, and more importantly, to buy your product, to look at your product and buy your product. And that's you, an interview process. So, and that's the analogy I always use. So make sure, my advice strongly is to make sure your visual merchandising is spot on. And today, you don't have a choice, basically. If the question or the answer to this question is, do you want a job? And the answer is yes, well, play the game. Make sure the visual merchandising is spot on. Because remember, there are hundreds of shops nearby, and an employer, customers can shop at their shop and buy their product, i.e. a job in brackets. So work integrated learning provides you an opportunity to acquire a job, right? To sell it, to market to an employer, to state your case for the defence or prosecution why they should be giving you an opportunity and not 50,000 others standing behind you. So I know I talk and talk and talk, but basically you can see, as McDad introduced me, that I'm very passionate about providing opportunities to students or to grads or new students, because the message from day one for me when I meet new students is your career starts today. Not at the end of your course, it starts today. So I'll hand it back to McDad. McDad?
Yes, Jared, these are very important advices. I'd like to take this opportunity to maybe put some questions out there to you, based on the questions that we receive from students. For example, the cycle, there is this cycle in Australia. International students always complain about, not being able to find a job, because when they look for a job, the employer tells them they don't have work experience. And when they go and try to look for work experience, they don't get the opportunity. So how do you answer this? Like, what kind of advice you would give them? Like, one of the things that I tell them is to, for example, start early. That's one of the things that I advise, is that when you are studying, don't wait until you graduate. So when you are studying, start looking for an internship. That's one of the things that I tell them, to try to break the cycle earlier. What are your advices regarding this issue?
Look, if we're talking about specifically, yeah. I guess that's where most of my experience lies, because we've been through this many times.
Yeah.
I'll give you this, that on day one, when students are on campus, I meet them in the lecture theatres, and the majority are international students. There are domestic students too, but there's another level with internationals. And I say to them day one, as I said before, a myth is international students can't get a job. Well, or international graduates can't get a job. Well, that's false. It is false, because I've got plenty of evidence, and I've talked about a few before with the Mercedes-Benz and the other systems IT engineer. They know how to play the game. It comes back to laying the foundation and playing the game and knowing how to play the game. A lot of internationals will hear this. You can't get a job. Friends, family, media, you name it, those around. And, the social environment around them will always...
Or they give up too quickly. They apply for a couple of jobs, they get rejected, and they know that, as you said, their friends maybe, they don't, they couldn't find a job, and so on.
Yeah, the messaging is, and they start to believe it. People start to, it applies to anyone. If you hear that message constantly, then you'll start believing that message, right? If you have people around you saying, yes, you can get a job, and being positive and positive and positive, that keeps your motivation up and, and your enthusiasm to acquire work. Everyone will get a yes in the end. Some people are lucky to get yes, number one, Apply for a job, yes, you get it, right? Other people will go, no, 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 50 times over, and then might get the yes then. It's keeping your motivation up and using the network. This is the thing, that students that tell students, or people that tell people, no, you can't get a job because you're international, don't know how to get a job themselves. And again, like you, they give up very easily. Well, I'm getting rejected after 2 applications. Well, right, I have got rejected from, you perhaps may have got rejected in the past, in your professional experience, right? So everyone gets the no's. And I say to you, you will get the no's, but you've got to keep plugging away, because the one person, it only takes only one to give you the yes and give you the nod and give you the job, right? But if you hear, keep it, and look, this is a case in point. This is a very relevant case. That last year, we're talking 2019. Now, this was an international student, and she came to me. She was an MPA. Now she's a grad, obviously, but she was an MPA student. No prior experience domestically. And she'd been in the country 4 weeks, and she really wanted a job. I mean, not just saying she wanted a job, she really wanted a job. And she came to me in desperation. Her mum back home was, I'm not going to name names, obviously, but her mum back home was renting out her room to total strangers in order to give funding to this particular student to keep going in Australia, to keep studying. And this particular student was quite ashamed of that happening, and she wanted to give money back to mum. Dad wasn't around, but mum was there, and she had total strangers living in her bedroom and so forth. So that led to her, this particular student, coming to me. Now, remember, international, 4 weeks in the country, no experience. So that's where the starting point was. So she came to me and I said, okay, visual merchandising, we have to come back to the visual, right, merchandising, which was your CV. She didn't even have a CV, right? And she didn't even have a LinkedIn. So she was coming from a blank canvas. So she was so adamant about getting work, but her friends were saying to her, no, you can't get a job. No, you can't get a job, right? 4 weeks, new student, the older students would say, no, you're not going to get a job, or a current student's going, you'll have to do cleaning, or you're going to have to do an Uber, or you're going to have to do retail hospitality. You're going to have to be stuck with that until you finish, and then hopefully find a job at the end. Well, no, instead of saying, okay, all right, well, hands up, that's all I'm going to do, I'm going to have to put up with it. She then stopped listening to her, and I said to her, don't listen to your friends. Listen to them about social stuff, right, as friendship and friends do. But in terms of careers, listen to what I'm about to tell you. So CV, and then her LinkedIn. And within 24 hours, that was a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. By lunchtime, she had done her CV and done a basic LinkedIn, and that's all it takes. And then I said to her, start messaging through LinkedIn. Start messaging people that are relevant to your study area. So Master of Professional Accounting, so business finance contacts. So she connected with organisations. Remember, that was the cost, which all students and graduates know that I like them to pay. So use the network. So she started doing that through her network on LinkedIn, a very basic network. And I said to her, contact CEOs, contact them, send them a message and tell them your story. Be precise, be professional. It's got to be clear. The message has to be clear. So start up there. And she said, very first thing, I remember her saying, oh, no, I can't do that. I'm just a student, and more so an international student, and I can't do that. They're 2 different levels. They're up here, I'm down here. And I go, no. Message them. Where's the law that says you can't do that? But her friends were saying, no. She then stopped listening to them within 15 minutes. And I said to her, yes, you're going to get the no's, right? You're going to get the no's, right? But you've got to be prepared for that. You might get no response. You might get ignored, okay? But it only takes one person. So she started messaging at midday. By 12:15, she got lucky enough. It's not going to happen to 100% of the people, but at the end of the day, she got an outcome. Because within 15 minutes, she got a response from a CEO saying, listen, it was pretty much a paragraph, so I can't, recite it all. But basically, the essential message was, I really like your creative style. I really like your succinct message. And I think what I will do for you, in fact, I will do for you, I admire your efforts. So what I'm going to do is direct my HR manager and CFO to give you a call on the Monday. That call came 48 hours later. She was interviewed on the Wednesday, and on the Thursday, she came screaming into MIT, all hands blazing, thinking, oh, I think the campus is on fire. But in fact, she was so excited, she was given a contract role with the organisation. Right? Now, it was a full-time contract role, but it was obviously peeled back to visa restriction, international student employment limitation throughout academic time. But she had a finance role. She was now there was no job advertised. She didn't go to an employment website. That was created for her. And not all organisations, fair enough, and acknowledge that that will happen. But you never know if you don't give it a go, with my motto. And her friends are now very envious of her. And right now she's well and truly graduated, and she's actually been headhunted. So basically like that IT engineer role that was provided to that graduate, that Masters of Engineering graduate on his last day of his internship. This particular student had the same thing applied. Could work there right throughout her studies, business related, finance related, in a finance officer role. She was rostered on part-time throughout academic period. Outside when she went to holidays, non-academic period, they roster her on full-time. She finished, completed, she had nothing to worry about because she was offered a full-time role at the end prior to her graduating. That's a case in point that says quite clearly that international students can get professional work. Yes, acknowledged that a lot, and you'll see it on the employment websites, only for PR and Australian citizens. That is a common thread. But there are equally organisations out there that will give you an opportunity. And I recall talking to an associate manager, or acting general manager rather, of an organisation of an online digital careers platform that MIT is about to acquire. And we had this talk about international students and employers in industry now slowly recognising the fact that there's enormous value, and I think perhaps COVID days and lockdown has brought about this change too, an attitude, that there's enormous value in international talent, international student talent. And more opportunities are coming, and you can see it. You can actually see it pre-COVID. I'll take it back pre-COVID because I remember the PwCs and the big accounting firms were starting to allow international students and allow them to their summer internship programs and so forth. 4 years ago, that would never have happened. These days, and that's a slowly changing attitude from employers that, oh, hang on, there's enormous value in acquiring international student talent. And so, and we're reflective in the student numbers that we're seeing here at MIT about students acquiring work, and those examples before of those students acquiring professional. I'm not talking about the part-time hospitality roles, which there are probably none these days, but they're professional jobs, the professional jobs that relate directly back to their course of study that they're undertaking.
Thank you, Jared. I think this is very helpful advice because, yeah, a lot of international students, I think they have this impression that it's impossible for them to get into the market, and they stop trying. That's the issue.
Can I tell you something? This is what I test with students, and it comes back to that basic theme of employment's a game. You're going to know how to play that game. And one of the questions, and it's very funny with new students that arrive, because the older students are smiling because they know what I'm about to ask them, right? And I ask them of graduates too, because my role is also alumni behind you, so that deals with graduates. But one of the very first questions, I say it in the lecture theatres or anyone that I meet first, and I say to them, okay, pretend we're in an interview, right? And I say to you, do you have your own transport? And they go, no, I don't have a car. Communication skills, and you see it in job ads, it's all about communication skills, soft skills, all those sorts of things, and communication skills. So what I'm doing is I don't care whether you have your own transport or not. I'm testing whether you're listening, communication skill. I'm playing the game. A lot of people here, do you have a car? And I say, well, and they say, no, I don't have a car. Or they say, no, I don't have my own transport. And I say to them, are you sure about that? You don't have your own transport? And they go, no, I don't have a car. And I go, what's the question that I'm actually asking you? I'm actually asking whether you've got your own, do you have a pair of legs? I hope so. And believe it or not, some in the lecture theatre go, no. And I go, what did you do, fly here? Right? But do you have access to your own transport? So ferry, train, bus, tram, light rail, Uber, taxi, skipping rope, roller skates, car, who knows, right? But do you have access to your own transport? I'm not asking whether you have your own car. Another example that I use in interviews that I talk to students about playing the game, because employers are playing the game, I'm going to play the game with you in an interview. So you've got to think left field with interviews. And this is all the game that goes on. And they're playing it. Industry's playing it, right? And if you don't play or know how to play, then your chances of acquiring a job is pretty much next to nothing, right? Because remember the employment ratio now, or job ratio, job application ratio, it's enormous. You know, I'll take you back to that kitchen hand job of 2,500 applications for part-time. And those applications include airline pilots. You've got airline pilots that have been laid off or made redundant that are now driving trams, right? Or driving buses or working on farms. So the employment market's all sort of mixed up and jumbled around, and people have diversified, and obviously COVID and restrictions have provided opportunities to people have a rethink. But one of the other questions, and it's all about competition and marketability as a candidate to acquire a job, is that I say to them, perhaps in an interview, I have 5 people, including yourself. I've already interviewed 4, but you're the last one I'm going to interview. And I say to them, okay, so I'm going to offer, I like each one of you, I really want to offer you the job, but it's the best person with the best answer to the next question. I'm going to ask you the same question, each of you, and I've heard the other 4, and this is your opportunity. Your job is to beat out the other 4. No? If you really want a job, you've got to play the game. And I asked them, okay, the question to you is, when can you start? When can you start? And they say, oh, tomorrow. I say, boring. When can you start? And I keep going, when can you start? Give me a better answer. And they say, next week. Boring. Immediately. Boring. Think about beating out the other competition. Think about beating out the 4, because this is the game and this is what you're up against in industry. No one's going to hand you a job, right? Unless you prove your case. Just like in a court of law, you've got to prove your case. So you've got to stamp your name on that job opportunity or employment opportunity. So I say to them, so when can you start? And then they still don't get it. And they still, oh, tomorrow or immediately. And go, no, because number 1 has said tomorrow. Number 2 has said immediately. Number 3 has said 4 weeks. And another one said 2 weeks. Okay, so I turn it around and I say, okay, you asked me that question and you're interviewing me. And they say, the student says, or the graduate says, well, when can you start, Jared? And I go, well, you know what? I could start yesterday, right? Think about what an employer wants to hear. And that would be, to answer that question, day 2, not day 1 like the others. It'll be day 2. If the opportunity existed yesterday, I would be here with bells on, and this would be day 2. Beating out the competition is key and strategic. Another quick thing that I would tell you is that at the end of an interview, you more than likely will get asked, so have you got any questions for us? A lot of the time people ask that, employers will ask that. And they say, and some people just sit there and go, no, I've got no questions. Maybe do I have to wear a uniform? Do I have to wear, or when can I start? All that sort of thing, standard stock. How about this as a tip for you? And I've actually had students ask this question in an interview, and the interviewers are actually taken back and stunned by the question because they weren't really expecting that to be asked. But one of the questions you could actually ask them strategically would be, okay, so say if it's a Telstra job, right? I'm just picking Telstra out of the air. And so you've gone in for an interview and the people are there and you've gone through the graduate recruitment program and you're at the final stage and it's a yes or no after this question. And this will determine it. And they say, okay, so have you got any questions for us? And I would say to them as an applicant, you know what, I do. And I'd like to know what gets you up in the morning and want to come to work for Telstra. And I guarantee they would not be expecting that answer or that question being asked. And in fact, a couple of students have come back to me and said, you know what, we asked that question, Jared, and they looked at each other, the two interviewing us, and they said, that's a really good question. Why do you come to work for ... And it gets them thinking, and it shows, and it goes to the message of cultural fit. So what gets you up in the morning and want to come for work for this company? And remember, the key, strategic key to getting or acquiring a successful outcome for a job is leaving them with an impression. So say if I have 5 people, 5 candidates, and I'm asking the same old question and I'm getting the same old answers, and then someone new comes along, or the 5th person comes along and leaves me with an impression that I'll remember them, then I go away, they go away, interview's finished, and then I'll go, oh, hang on, I do remember that one. Now, you know what? She was really good. I'm going to give her an opportunity. Right? Leaving impressions count. Using the network counts. Undertaking will programs, whatever that form takes. Virtual internships, branding, that recognisable branding on your CV, all collectively helps acquiring a job and playing the game. The tips that I just gave you in terms of interviews as well, all add up. And you've got to be and have your A game on. If you don't, as again, it comes back to that sporting match. You play poorly, you're not going to win the game. Okay? So employment, COVID days, as the employment market pre-COVID, you're looking at Australia domestic, what, 5.5% unemployment? What is it now? 7, 8, 9, 10, and maybe more before we get back to relative normal. Okay? So per ratio, the jobs or applicants per job has skyrocketed. Again, the kitchen hand job is an example, but you have no choice. If the answer is yes, you want a job, you have no choice but to play the game and up the ante. And up the ante is an old Australian colloquialism of just saying you've got to improve and do the work and lay the groundwork. Like any another analogy is if you're going to have a fantastic house, you've got to have a great foundation. And that again plays into the CV, the cover letter, all those sorts of things, and playing the game. McDad?
Jared, you mentioned a few times virtual internships as one of the trends that appeared during the COVID times and became more popular. What do you think will happen with virtual internship? Do you think this is just a short-term trend during COVID times, or do you think that's it's ongoing? Like, what are your expectations for 2021?
Yeah, I think they will go because the restrictions will stay in force for, well, not as we've seen them pass, because Australia's doing pretty good and the easing of restrictions, but there will be never a pre-COVID day again. We'll never go back to 100% of what we were. So I think what industry has come up with or what we've come up with, in industry or generally, even higher education with online delivery, and the proof that we can deliver programs online and digitally, that basically I think those virtual internships will stay around that well into 2021 as we move on. And we'll move away from on campus or move away from in-house internships. Yes, they'll still be there. But again, with higher education, it's going to be blended. I remember that, I think the Vice-Chancellor of ANU, could be wrong, but I really think he did say it, that higher education is never going to be the same again like we were in pre-COVID days. I mean, we've all had to adapt. CareerDC has to adapt. We have to adapt. Higher education as an industry have to adapt. Business, general business, and we all have. We all have adapted, right? And I think the remnants of lockdown and the business changeover or the online will hang around and be moving on and will be equally as part of life as the on-site or in-person, face-to-face, whatever you want to call it, that face-to-face delivery. So virtual internships, and it's reflective in the numbers. Like there's one platform in particular, and you can Google them. I don't know whether, you know, it was called, this will give you a clue to it. They've changed the name, but it's called Inside Sherpa. It was. I think it was developed by an Australian at the time, but based in America. I think it's San Francisco based. But they started like this, and now they're enormous. I mean, there were over millions that have completed their virtual internships, and they've hooked up with big Australian businesses. And their certificate, you know, you get a certificate at the end. The graduate recruitment program leaders look at those participants that come through, you put them in, there's enormous benefit in that. And they're 5 to 6 hours, you know, the convenience of not having to take a tram or a train or a bus and having to go into a workplace, that will always be there. That will always be there. But it gives greater numbers, I guess, the virtual internships, and they're credible. You know, a couple of years ago, you'd look at it and go, yeah, well, sure, right? They're not of value, but more so, I think we've adapted and realised that they are valued. And when you look at it and have, you know, you see them on the CV, because my students and graduates are putting, you know, Comback, right, or KPMG or Deloitte's or Microsoft or you know, Citibank's another one that are putting those brand names, well-known brand names on their CVs. And that obviously is maximising opportunity. You know, you have, you know, before COVID, you probably wouldn't get a chance, or maybe a 2% chance of getting in through the door. But they're open to international students. They're open to domestic students. So that gives everyone an equal playing field of getting that experience. So yes, to answer the question, I know that's a 10-hour answer, as I normally give you, but that provides opportunities to everyone, and it's fair and equitable for everyone. And those virtual internships are of worth because they're developed. They're not developed by one company. They are developed by the respective independent companies. So if you do a virtual internship with Comback, I think there's one AI and robotics internship. And remember, they're free. It just requires a 2-minute sign up without cost. Then you get a certificate. The graduate recruitment people see it as well. And you get a certificate that you can be part of that virtual internship or virtual merchandising package that I was talking about. So yes, virtual internships, I think, are here to stay. I think they really are here to stay.
Well, this year, I think over 50% of our internships are done online.
That's right.
I think it works better in many ways. There's no need for commute.
And you can
have groups of students from any state basically working together, regardless of the location of the company. So it works really well.
It does, and I think you know, and they can do it. The ones that I've been talking about, the virtual ones, can be done at their own leisure as well. So you know, you can do 5 to 6 hours.
Task-based, project-based.
Correct. Yeah. And the ones that I check in with, the students that have completed or the graduates that have completed, that actually I check in with them and say, well, would you recommend them to current students or those without or looking for an internship? Right? And they go, absolutely. You will learn something from them and they're of value. And that's important feedback. I just don't do it for the sake of putting it out there and trying to find numbers for internships. It is actually of real worth. And that is important, right? And is it of worth that an potential employer will look at that? And yes, of course, no, because a graduate who did an interview had done a virtual internship, and they actually talked. It was topic for their it was a topic of discussion for their interview. How did you find it? What was involved? All that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think virtual internships, from my point of view, will stick around for all those reasons.
Okay, so maybe we will go into Q&A. We had a question from Sharan. So Sharan, if you can.
Welcome.
Sharan, if you can unmute and ask your question.
Yep. Good afternoon, Jared, and good afternoon, Mohammed. I'm from MIT.
I love your bike.
Yeah, you can grab my bike now.
I love your motorbike.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm a past student from MIT and graduation at 2020 June batch.
What did you do?
Just currently I'm like seeking a full-time opportunity of any IT jobs. So
Yeah.
as you said that I created, we met earlier before like this graduation, like jobs, and I have created my LinkedIn, had my like CV as well, and the cover letter, and I'm applying each and every time jobs, even in LinkedIn Seek, and I'll seek the employees like Hayes, Roberts, and everything. And this I'm not getting a proper reply at, like getting some rejections.
And you know what that is, Sharan? We talk about that all the time. I talk to students about Seek because I used to put jobs on Seek, right? And nothing against Seek themselves. They have a purpose and that's great. They're, legitimate business, they're in the marketplace and they've been around for years and years. And that's the traditional way of looking for work, perhaps. But remember, we're not in a traditional way of life at the moment, and nor will we as we move forward. So again, that comes back to adapting to the new us, the new environment that we're living in, right? And that's what I was talking about before with adaptability. So let me tell you about Seek, that employers are moving away from Seek. And you know what? Seek has said it themselves. Seek has said publicly themselves, or employment websites, not so much Seek particular, but employment websites. Think about it, because employers need the money these days. They need to save their money and be more wise about how they spend their money. Now, remember how recruitment agencies work as well, right? They don't make money off candidates, or they don't ask you for money. They make money from clients. They're more interested in clients, right? And let me tell you about agencies. I tell students not to touch agencies, right? And there's a reason why. We're talking recruitment agencies, right? And this is the reason why. So I was a client services manager at an agency, and I've worked in Melbourne and Sydney, doesn't matter where, right? This is how agencies work. So I was a client services manager at one point. So my role especially was basically looking after massaging all the current relationships, strengthening them, or going out to do cycle calls, or saying hello, checking in with them, everything okay, the places that we've got, or establishing new business development manager, all that sort of thing, right? Establishing new business. So say if we had, as part of my rounds of all the businesses that are all the clients that I'm checking in on, I may go to one organisation and say, hi everyone, I'm here for coffee, blah, blah, blah. So I'll be having coffee with them. And one of them would say, my site contact would say, hey, you know what, Julie, I'm making the name Julie up, but Julie's leaving, right? Julie's leaving in 4 weeks' time. She's resigned, So as soon as I left that place, I would then ring back at the agency and, hey, by the way, in 4 weeks, such is going, right? So if they give us a job to fill and we need to fill it fast, right? They want that fill fast, then we need to have candidates ready to go and give them as soon as they ring us. They can't be affording, otherwise we're going to lose the business. So what I do is ring, as soon as I left that place and get that field intelligence, I would then ring the agency back at base and say, hey, you guys, in 4 weeks' time, this position may be, whatever position it was. It could be a divisional nurse, or it could be an engineer, or a help desk role, or whatever, right? So I would then get them to put a job ad. If we don't have any candidates ready to go or on file, they would then put a job ad out. There's no job in existence, but what we're doing is putting an ad out in preparation, possibly, for a job to come along in 4 weeks' time, or within 4 week period, right? So therefore, we would have candidates ready to go. So the positions that you're applying for through agency may not even exist, okay? So that is why they may, but again, a lot of them won't, because basically they're looking or spruiking for candidates ready. So they'll interview you and then they may say, oh yeah, we're putting the position on hold or whatever, right? Because in the background, there's no position, or they're waiting for someone to actually leave or give them a job, one of their clients to give them a job. So that's why I always say, don't look at agency, because a lot of the time they're only spruiking for more candidates. If you apply for a job, if you apply for a job through Seek, I'm not talking about agency, if you apply for a job through Seek, then you might, and if you get those automated roles, so you submit your application and 3 seconds back or 5 seconds back, you get, thank you for your application, Sharan. look, you know, if your skills and things match later on, or abilities match, then we'll be back in touch with you or something, right? Or we're currently interviewing and we'll get back to you, whatever. That is AI. No, that's a scanner. That's AI. That's a computer talking to you, right? So if I put a job on Seek right now, while I'm talking to you, right, I put on a job live, right? Doesn't matter what employment type. I go away, have a cup of coffee, come back. I'm going to have 50 million CVs in my inbox, right? Already, right around the world, right? And you can put on as a strategy as an employer, only Australian citizens apply, or only PR or whatever. Then I'll still get that applications, or those applications from overseas. So therefore, I have that scanner on to weed out, or to filter rather, not to weed out, but to filter applications. So a computer really these days, remember the amount of applications they're getting. So computers, scanners are now deciding, not humans, right? So what I would suggest, if you are going to use those employment websites, basically go direct to the ads. These are the, and I was saying it yesterday to students, use the fresh ads, the ones that come up in pink. If you're going to use Seek, go to the pink numbers that sit alongside the list. So posted 53 minutes ago, posted 16 minutes ago, posted 3 hours ago, because you know if you submit an application, that's relatively up the top of the list, right? When you hit, because they'll have probably not too many applications. They'll have applications. They might have a scanner, and the scanner works that, you know, I might, if I'm putting the job on, I might have 5 or 6, maybe up to 12 words, I think it is, 12 keywords, right, target words that I can embed in that job ad. And in applications like you submit your CV, hit apply, hits the scanner, doesn't contain those 12 words, automated response back. There goes your response. If you get one of them, what I would say to you is move on from it. You know, it's a bonus if they reply later on, but unless there's a deadline built within or embedded in that job ad, then I would probably not apply for anything over 2 days old. Never apply on a Friday afternoon. Everyone's down at the pub drinking, and I can tell you recruitment agency people will go, all due respect to them, but basically Friday afternoon, never apply for a job. The best time to do and apply for a job is Monday morning at 8:30 to 9 o'clock in the morning. What happens? Look at it from an employer's point of view. No, employer's point of view, agency, whatever. If you're going to go agency track, go agency track if you want to go that way and waste your time. But people come into the office, back in the office at 9 o'clock, right? Your email is sitting there fresh. If you post it or you send it on a Friday afternoon, mid-afternoon or late afternoon or weekend, other emails are coming in, bearing your CV, bearing your application. They won't get to it Monday, you'll get lost in transit. Okay, so Seek, yes, you can do it, but pre-COVID, employment website. So pre-COVID, you might stand a 30% chance of getting work. And I'm plucking that figure out of the air, but it's probably about that. And you know yourself, you're not getting opportunities, right? So the chances aren't there. They're not being maximised. Post-COVID, during COVID, you're looking at probably 3%. So this is what I said. It comes back to, and employers are saying it. Be creative, like that student that emailed through LinkedIn or messaged through LinkedIn, right? She emailed the boss. He's not going to give the job. He's going to disseminate that information down. As I said to you, he directed his HR and CFO to give this student a call, right? So it gets filtered. You go up there, it gets filtered down. You go in there at HR, email HR, they're going to do whatever they want. But if you get an email from the boss, like if I get an email from McDad, hello, CEO, I'm going to do something with it, right? Otherwise, he'll come to my desk and go, hey, Jared, blah, 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 right? Yeah. Basically, this is the strategy that you use, right? Knowing how to play the game, know how industry works, look at your visual merchandising. You can do it. And I know, Sharon, you can do it. Carol, I know you're there too, and I know she can do it too. Employment is possible. It's absolutely impossible for you both. But in the past, you've probably been hearing from all those around you know you can't get a job, or you go through the traditional way. Tradition is not working anymore. Tradition doesn't work, right? In other aspects of life, of course it does. But we've moved on, right? We're now heading 2021, maybe 2018. You look at it. It's like technology. buy an iPhone yesterday and it's not relevant today. No, jobs that are around 5 years ago, not around today. Journalism is one of those areas, right? Journalist, you know, if a student was coming into wanting to do a journalism course, I'd say forget it. If you want a job, don't do journalism because there are no jobs. Because their technology is not around 5 years ago, or now that was around 5 years ago. And that applies to other parts of industry. I just had a thought, and I know I talk a lot, but because of the short amount of time, I get the message out to you. The thing is that I've heard, that and it's publicly known information, that in terms of cyber security, the Australian government is actually looking at international student graduates. Now that's a shift. That is a shift from 3 years ago. Again, you know, a lot of industry is saying PR only, or Australian residents only, or Australian citizens. Yes, we get all that. But if Australian citizens and PR people can't fill the gaps, where are they coming from? And if you've got people right in front of you, international student talent, who are you going to go to? Of course, you're going to give them opportunities, right? So the motivation has to be kept up. That, the energy and motivation is key to it all. I've had students with me that, again, another case in point, he was so frustrated. He was so frustrated in getting all the no's all the time. No one's going to give me a job. All I get is rejections. You know, I go for interviews. Well, if you get an interview, you know something's right because you've got that far. You know then your CV and your cover letter works, or your documents work. Your foundation is fine. Then there's something wrong with the interview if you're not getting the jobs. So we then looked at the interview strategy with him, and he then started to realise, and then he's recently got a job at Kmart IT. He's a networking graduate, but he got a job and beat out 35 others for a Kmart IT job. Now, he's an international student, right? So why are they all getting the jobs, right? And that breaks the myth. Again, international students can't get a job. A professional, well, yes, they can get a job, right? And there's evidence after evidence after evidence after evidence that, yes, you can get a job, right? But you've got to know how to get it. That's the trick. Employers will give you opportunity, right? So traditional ways, or the ways you're being taught, may not work anymore, right? Employers come into MIT or Zoom or whatever, they meet us and they say to students, I say, don't tell me, tell the students. And they say, network, network, network. That's why I rely heavily on the alumni, the graduates, because now they're all in position. You know, an example of that, we've got an MPA grad from 2008 that has now got 15,000 clients and run a national accounting business, right? He knows, that graduate knows, now it's 12 years past, right? And he's in business and he's the CEO. He understands how students work. And that's the connection. There's common ground, right? Again, I know I'm going to jump around, but in an interview, decisions are made normally within about 5 seconds of meeting you. They get an initial feel for you. The very first thing, the very first impression, people talk about very first impressions all the time, right? So when you walk through the door, you've got to establish that cultural fit. And the way to do that, or find common ground. Common ground. And if you're in Sydney or if you're in Melbourne, 2 common ground, especially in Melbourne. The four, maybe, if I can think of them, the 4 most common ground areas are dogs, right? Dogs and pets, football, AFL, coffee, cafes, lattes and coffee and so forth, and also the weather. Sydney, pets, again, dogs, NRL, weather, beach, right? Shopping, common ground areas that you're walking in and say, you know what? Okay, let's do this. If I walked into McDad's business, right? And I walk into CareerDC, I haven't met McDad or the team before, go to the front counter, then McDad comes out and I say to him, oh, hi McDad, I'm Jared, you're expecting me. You know what? I need a coffee, or I need, can you suggest anywhere? I think around the corner. And McDad, that's that striking up of conversation. And Coffee, right? Okay, so that's our conversation to start with. That's the icebreaker that a lot of companies do when they're inducting people, their new employees, icebreakers. or strategy around teamwork and team building, always icebreakers are involved. So when you go and see someone for the very first time, talk about something common to you both. So therefore they can answer that question. Now, I have 3 golden retrievers, as everyone knows. That is a huge icebreaker because most people will have dogs. If they don't, they might have a pet, a cat or whatever, or they have cats back home or dogs or pets back home, right? But it's that conversation, right? Or with McDad, oh, do you know any cafes around here that I can get a good coffee? No? As McDad just said before, that, you know, coffee was his thing. So there's the initial icebreaker, and that's something, it's the art of conversation. That's what it is all about. If you get in for an interview, you've half sold it, right? You've got to clinch the deal, and that's interview. And that's.
I think Sharon has one more question.
Yeah, but Jared is keep on talking, so I can't able to interrupt. So that's the reason why I'm just quiet.
Say that again.
So just you keep on talking, like I mean, I can't interrupt you in the middle.
Yes, you can.
So Jared, I have one more question. And I had my resume, and like I had a previous experience in network administration in India. I include that, and I done project in MIT. That also included in the resume. And I'm applying every time LinkedIn a job. When I post, I mean, I see any job in LinkedIn like network admin or like system admin or like any like technical support engineer, I'm keep on applying that resume to every jobs, but I'm getting like most of rejection that because you're not relevant your experience or like you don't have any Australian experience, like kind of stuff. Should I rewrite the resume for every job, or like same resume I'll post for every?
Can I tell you something? Sorry, Sharon. Can I tell you something? That when students go for interview, they get asked, "Oh, are you on a student visa?" Right? There's a lot of that going on, and you know it, right? You're on a student visa, you've got work restriction, all that sort of thing. But in telling them what you are limited to do, this is marketing yourself. This is what I'm saying, up the ante. Don't just don't put up with this is what I'm trying to say. So instead of saying, well, I can only work 20 hours a week, you can say, throughout non-academic period, I can work 40 or I can work full-time. They hear full-time in their head. Tell about the positives that you can do and not the negatives, right? You've got to market yourself. If you were going to sell a dodgy bike, right, or a broken down lemon car, you're going to market it the best way to get the best money, right? I'm not saying you're a dodgy car or a lemon, but what I'm saying to you is you've got to market yourself the best things about you, right? So instead of saying, oh, well, I can only work 20 hours or 40 a fortnight or 20 hours a week or whatever the case, according to restriction, tell them about what you can do. You can work 40 hours. You can work full-time outside. So start with the positives, right? In terms of if they put, this is the thing, that if it does say Australia, I'm thinking back now, I think ahead, and I think back to recruitment days. And I put on Australian SITs and permanent res and all that sort of thing. I still encourage people to apply, right? You may think that's a waste of time, but if we don't get any appropriate candidates, I will then look at maybe the second tier to say whether or not there are any options within the ones that have got restrictions, and maybe I can sell that, right, if I was in agency. So I would still, as I do, encourage students to still do it, unless it has got Australian citizen. PR can be sort of, you're trying to convince, the art of conversation is trying to convince them to take you on. And I would say, why did those students get taken on student visas and offered full-time jobs? Right? Why did they get offered full-time jobs? They're on student visas. No, the National Australia Bank took on a student visa, right? And now she's working there full-time. She's been there 2.5 years and just got a promotion. But she started and applied on a casual full-time, part-time, rotating roster at National Australia Bank. So that person standing on that poster behind me, He was a student a couple of years ago, Jatton right in the middle there, and he just texted me 2 days ago and said the ANZ has made him permanent full-time, right? Bachelor Business Accounting student, but student visa to start with. So student visas and those with limited work rights can still get jobs. And I would still encourage you, because recruiters may, if you want to go recruitment, or HR managers or whoever, may find value still. You've got to be in it to win it. People complain about not winning lotto. And I say to them, well, did you buy a ticket? No. Well, how can you win? Right? You never know. You've got to be in it to win it. That's simple, right? Some people see it wasting your time if you've got limitation like that. Australian citizenship, sure, I get that, right? But PRs, look, you know, if there's a full-time job, right? If there's a full-time job offered and I'm recruiting for it, right? But there are no appropriate full-time people. And then I see 2 people that can work part-time, I might be able to recruit 2 people for one job, and have the employer might go, oh, hang on, 2 great candidates, we can fill that job, that full-time job, right? With 2 people doing part-time role. So there's flexibility, and especially today, we all talk about flexibility, working from home, all that sort of thing, right? So the marketplace employment is, I think, is heading, and McDad might agree with this or might disagree, but employers, and there's a big call for it from Chamber of Commerce and so forth, that employers need to be flexible, right? Employers do. McDad, would you agree with that? And where at the moment that
I think, of course, and that we see also that the host organizations are becoming more and more flexible, especially small to medium-sized enterprises, because they are not as structured. They have this ability to pivot and change and adjust, like especially this year.
Yeah.
We see there are a lot of opportunities with small to medium-sized enterprises, and we always encourage the students to try. Some students, they only prefer large companies, but what really matters are the skills. What are you going to learn in the internship? And this way you will be able to have real skills, real experience. When you go and look for a job, when you get an interview, you know what you're talking about. For example, if you're looking for an internship in an accounting company, you know, a lot of small to mid-sized range companies use Xero or MYOB. You'll get to learn these software skills. So I think I would say always focus on the experience, focus on the skills that you will learn from the internship.
What can you do for us? What can you do?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Stating the case, again, you're winning in a court of law, whether it's prosecution or defence. State the case and win the case. And winning the case is acquiring the job and getting a yes of employment, offer of employment. You can do it. You can do it, right? But for those who don't want to try and they don't have the effort, you'll give up after one, well, it's not going to come for you, right? Or they listen to the external friends around them, right? That's not going to come. You've got to think for yourself, be creative, be adaptable, be energetic, be motivated, right? Clear communication skills. I even get students to record their own voicemail message because that's the first glimpse. This is a tip. This is what I tell some of my students, that I write the recording for them, the voicemail recording, because that's their first glimpse, an employer, of you as a candidate, right? Yes, your CV, yes, your cover letter, that gets sent through, they give you a call. I say to them, ignore that call. Don't answer the call and let it go through to voicemail, no? And then what that's doing is getting the employer, prospective employer, to listen to your voice, to listen how well you communicate. And then you've got a window of time to bring them back, right? In which they contact me, and then I take them through the interview process with them. Then they ring the employer. Again, it's the game. It's a step-by-step thing of acquiring a yes, not a no. If you're going to do it by yourself, Sharon, have you got a voicemail message on your phone?
Yeah, exactly. Even some employees call me. I won't take the phone. After that, I'll listen to the voicemail and I'll see the company and I'll say the company details to the recruiters, and just going like that, going on will be.
Yeah, you've got to be slow. You've got to have on-point message in your voicemail. Don't just, and I test it sometimes. I test students and graduates, and I ring from a block number, and I go, and they go, oh, hello, because they go, yeah, what do you want? That, always answer your phone like a prospective employee is going to call you. If you go, hey, what do you want? Or hi, it's blah, 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 ain't going to cut it. Right? Good afternoon, Jared speaking. Or hi, McDad, it's Jared from MIT. Okay? So formal introduction on your phone and let it go through to voicemail.
Excellent.
Which you do, which is good, which is a good strategy.
Do we have any other questions for Jared?
Yes, Jared. So when we are applying any jobs in LinkedIn, we need to change our resume. I mean, we need to edit our resume according to the job, or like even we have 10 jobs, same one resume is.
What I would say, sorry, Sharon, to interrupt. What I would say, because I know you're on limited time, so I'm trying to get the message out as much as I can for you. So what I would do as a strategy, as a different strategy, is what I suggested that student do before, what that student did before. And that was to contact higher up the chain in an organisation. And mindful, you will get the no's and you will get the no responses. But as a quick strategy, obviously something's not working for you now, right? Because there is no job. So therefore that tells me you've got to try something different, a new approach, right? And maybe what you need to do is don't go and message that level middle management, go right up the top and see if that works. And that doesn't cost but time, right? So what I would be doing, and yes, coming back to your CV, adapt it to the job, but don't make major change, but look at the job and look at the skills required. McDad touched on Xero and Mile, no, before. Now, if a job ad says that, naturally you would have those two platforms in your resume. If you don't have those two platforms in your resume, right, if it doesn't have a scanner, they'll be looking at it going, what? The employer, remember, looking at it from an employer's perspective, they'll look at that and go, what? We put Xero and MyOb in there and you don't even have it. Maybe you do and maybe you forgot it, but you get one chance, right? You get one chance. I look at all the prospective job ads that you apply for, and then basically look at the skills and qualities required. Look at the platforms, look at the programs that they're looking for, and put them in and make sure you know them. Because a lot of times you will get phone screen interviews. They'll ring you up and that's why you let it go to voicemail, because you revisit the job ad and you have it fresh in your memory, right? And you're prepared. Preparedness is key, right? So look at the skills, look at the programs, look at everything specific. And if they do have scanners in those job ads applied, then your CVs better have those platforms in there, because otherwise there'll be a high rate of rejection, okay? So I would start as a strategy for you, Sharon, jump into LinkedIn and start messaging people, searching people relevant, right? We're talking right up top management, and start emailing them or messaging them. That's how you do it. Remember, the red flag that I would say there is, if you're applying through jobs through LinkedIn, remember the increased ratio of applicants to the job ad, to the opportunity, right? Whereas, so you do it that way, or you go that way and contact directly. And think about the times that you're contacting them. If you're contacting them at night, the chances are they might sleep, or they might be busy, their time, personal time. Good time to do it is first thing in the morning. I'm not talking about 6 or 7 in the morning. I'm talking maybe 8 or 9, more like 9, because they're starting off their day, right? So that's what I would be suggesting to you, that you start messaging people. And I'm not saying, as an example, hey mate, informal chat. I'm talking formal, professional approach.
Yeah.
That student got an opportunity from a professional approach. It only takes one. And remember, there was no job there. All she did was make contact, and it happened for her. Okay? Sharon, McDad?
I'm listening. Yeah.
Caroline, if you have any question, we have also Caroline with us in the session. Do you have any questions for Jared? It's a good opportunity.
Not really, but I would really love to ask, like, assuming that I'm a student and I'm looking forward to put through my application for PR application, and then I get probably finance job, not really an accounting role. How do they respond to that? Because I believe when you're doing your skill assessment, sometimes they want to put in your experience in the profession you're applying to.
Well, that's a migration, that ties into migration advice, and I can't provide that migration advice. That's best done by agents and so forth, Karen.
Okay.
Right, it is. I can't provide migration advice to that sort of thing, but what I would suggest when you were asking that question is I was thinking employers and and your approach with employers, and basically how you would tackle that with employers. And I would be, look, I'm thinking about cases in the past that students have completed or about to complete and looking for work and have acquired jobs, and they talk about visas, and they talk about PR, and they talk about skill assessment and all that sort of thing. And my advice to all those students in the past have been just be honest with the employer, because it can come back and bite you. I think back an offer was made, they hadn't gone through the migration process, or they were going through it but didn't tell the employer. The offer was made for employment, and because things were still pending migration-wise through the process, the offer was withdrawn. The employment offer was withdrawn. So I would just be honest about the process in terms of interaction with employers and telling them where exactly you are. But telling them, though, the positive, it comes back to what I was saying before about the positive that you can provide to a prospective employer, not the negative, not what you can't do, but the can do. And again, stating the case why you should be provided that opportunity.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that.
That's all.
Right. Well, Jared, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. I think you are very passionate about what you do and about helping young students and graduates to get to kickstart their careers. So it's been a very good session. I think you have so much experience in this area that we cannot cover in one session. So maybe we can do another session another day if you're happy to do that.
We might do a series perhaps. And can I also say to Sharon and Carol, thank you very much. I'm quite happy to meet up with them very shortly. They might have my details. I know Carol does. Sharon, do you have my details?
Jared, I think I had your phone number. Let me check it out.
Don't publicize it. Don't say it.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, ending with 021.
Yes, that's it. I was about to say 04 something.
Yeah, Jared. Thanks for this opportunity. I know it's like good information about the career and the job roles, and thanks, Mohammed, for this opportunity.
Thank you, and thank you for attending. And again, thank you very much, Jared, and we hope to have another session with you.
Always a pleasure, McDad. Always.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Yeah.